And we are live.
Okay. Hello. I think I'll do a quick just an introduction for our talk for today. So the name is Boost Your Design to Development Efficiency with Figma and Webflow. Um, Everybody else here on the screen, I'll take it from the top for myself. And so we've got Justin Slack joining us, Skalk Venter as well, and then Robert Smart will be doing the presentation and the show and tell, I guess, for us for today. Thanks, Robert. Let me quickly just, for those who don't know, just introduce Zapt and what we are, and also just maybe like a tiny little bit about our future plans. So Zapt is, I don't think there is another product design community in South Africa. I haven't checked lately, but I think this is the only one. So it's a South African product design community across all our sort of platforms. We've got about 3,000 members, of which most are on meetup.com. We focus on anything product, but mostly in the design space, front-end development as well. And yeah, we're a couple of years old, and yeah, we've recently decided to sort of work with FETSA and a few other communities, and we're going to come together, and we'll be posting about that soon. Our collective name will be Control C. And yeah, we will reach out to all the communities and tell them where to go and where to join for all of that. Then I just need to do a quick shout out to all our sponsors. FETSA is there as a sponsor. FETSA, also one of the groups that we are going to work together with under Control C. FETSA shares everything with the people that they work with. So even this StreamYard account, they share with us. Then, and Justin and Skalk on the call here is also very involved with that community. NML, Justin is from NML. NML is a specialist financial services software development company. And then there is IO. I'm from IO, which is a product and startup builder. We do a bit of innovation and custom development. And then don't know if it's visible there, but at the bottom, if anybody is interested in getting involved in sponsorship or want to know more about it, there's an email address, joshua@fetsa.org. You can always drop us an email about that. And then I'm going to let Skalk take over here to do an intro for our speaker for today.
Yeah.
Thanks, Skalk.
Cool. Thanks for that, Liesel. Yeah. So I guess the cat is out of the bag. But yeah, if you want to learn a bit more about like the Control C stuff, it's just Control CTR, so CTRLC.community. Where we have just a temporary thing. So we're kind of merging Zapt and FETSA's merging, and then also pulling in some other projects and stuff that's very related to the community space. So the mental health stuff that's myself and other Skalk are doing is also like falling under that, and some stuff related to beginners and assisting beginners and open source stuff as well and so forth. So yes, and there is the link. Thanks, Justin. Right. So Robert, we had a couple of months ago, almost maybe a year now, we had Bulls on to talk about Webflow, and he just kept on going on about Robert and that we should get in touch with Robert and that Robert should do a talk. So like no pressure at all. But I have been following you, Robert, on LinkedIn quite a bit as well, and you're very active there as well, specifically in terms of just like the design side, but also like marketing related stuff and so forth. So I'm very interested in kind of seeing how tonight goes, because first and foremost, I'm a very big fan of Webflow. All my students had to do Webflow. I think it's a phenomenal thing, even if you just want to get into HTML and CSS and so forth. I probably have some questions lined up about Webflow. but yeah, so and also like kind of I think we tend to, because of our own histories, myself and Liesel and Justin, we tend to, I think, end up very much talking about things within the world of internal products and internal teams and stuff. So it's really cool every now and then just having someone who's working more kind of in a freelance or agency basis, as opposed to internally working in an organization and building like some massive monolithic piece of software.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I'm very much looking forward to it. But Robert, I'm happy for you to go ahead, introduce yourself, and yeah, and then we can take it from there.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I'm just gonna share my screen and then we'll take it from there. I
Mm,
am going to keep this very practical.
mm.
Um, just FYI, Skulk. One of the guys that work for me mentioned to me today or yesterday that you were his lecturer. His name is
Oh,
Jaden Hartman. Not sure
oh
if you know.
no. Yeah, I think like he was one of the first years I had, or like, do you know if that's from Codespace or CTCA? Do you know which
I,
organization?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. He didn't mention that, but he just said no.
Yeah.
You were his lecturer, and so like, oh, okay, cool,
Oh,
man.
geez. All right. Okay.
Yeah,
Shout out to you, Jaden. Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Okay, cool. So, like I said, I'm gonna keep it very practical this evening, just because I don't know about you guys, but I am someone that like learning hands-on stuff. I'm more the theoretical stuff. I'll leave that for another day. But this is just me going through Webflow, and so like you guys were mentioning that, yeah, maybe I should just no, who's this guy called Robert Smart? And what is he all about? So it's a little bit of a history. I'm a designer by trade, right? And I'm actually a self-taught developer. I remember many years back, I one of the first projects I worked on was to actually I had a guy that worked with me, and he basically taught me for a month before he left WordPress, and so I learned WordPress. I learned how to develop in WordPress, but after he left, I just had to go on my own and watched a whole lot of did a few courses here and there, and basically taught myself how to develop WordPress. But as WordPress, as I started working more in WordPress, it's got frustrated because you have to always install a plugin. You always have to do this, that, and the other. And then I think I was about um, 4 or 5 years into my career when I started discovering Webflow. It's just because I worked at another agency, inbound marketing agency, and that's where I had to learn Webflow. I think Webflow was at that time about 3 years old, right? So fairly new. And we had to learn that in order to develop the website inside of Webflow, prototype it, export the code, hand it over to the backend developers to create to develop the HubSpot websites. That's what we did. And then I decided to, just before COVID, I went on my own. I was actually I just did freelancing for about a year and a half, but never, my intention was never to focus solely on Webflow. I was just like a generalist, whatever work I could get in, I would take on. But then the more I started marketing myself on LinkedIn, writing content about Webflow and no code and low code, that's when I started realizing, oh, that's when people started reaching out to me, about Webflow websites. And so I actually just updated my website just to niche down on Webflow. And then I started getting more requests and more requests. And that's when I started the company. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, called 59 Digital. So we are a design and Webflow agency. We're based here locally in South Africa. And, I've been in this whole no code space for about 7+ years. And I'm one of the official Webflow partners here in South Africa. And I also, we run this with another guy called Brandon Tankard. So we run the Webflow communities, one in Pretoria, one in Cape Town. And our goal is just to help grow this whole low code, no code space here locally. So I'm quite excited about it because it has given me the opportunity to go on my own and grow in this field. And so I'm very passionate about it. Like I said, I started the business called 59er Digital, and these are just some of the clients I worked with. Boulder.ai, Virtuoso, Specno. Specno is a local agency, a software app development company here locally. Ideas Cartel, Literal Humans, Valencia Institute is the company that they basically run the whole UCT online high school. And so I worked with them here locally to work on that account. Good folks. A lot of these clients are local as well as international. If you want to know more, just click that button there. So some of the clients' portfolio, I know a lot of designers probably want to see what we are capable of. So you can check out our website, 59erdigital.com. I'm also on YouTube where I teach a lot of this stuff. You'll probably, Skulk, you probably saw a lot of the stuff on LinkedIn, where I am really active on LinkedIn because this is one of the platform I really love because sharing the knowledge there. And then I just decided, okay, we might as well just try out this whole YouTube stuff and just see where it goes. So I like to teach about business, about design, UX, no code, low code stuff. So you can check out my channel there. I am Robert Smart is the channel, or Robert Smart. And then, yeah, I guess everyone's here for Webflow and Figma. So I'm not going to go through Figma. Everyone knows Figma, hopefully. You can Google Figma. But Webflow, what is Webflow? What is this tool that was started about 10 years ago, I think. This is the 11th year, if I'm not mistaken. So Webflow is a powerful visual builder that allows you to not just build, but design and launch website without writing a single line of code. All right. And so Webflow is going into this space where they're trying to integrate a lot of platforms and apps and softwares and so on. So it's a popular choice for designers, for developers as well as businesses they who are looking for a flexible and intuitive platform to create stunning and professional websites. And so the reason why I like Webflow so much, it gave me that power to create something. When I design it, I can prototype it, and then I know it will come out the way I have envisioned it. So in the past, I would get the reason why I learned software or coding is because I got frustrated with developers not creating the website the way I designed it. And so I wanted to know more. Why do you guys do it this way? Why do you say it's not possible? Why this? Why that? And so now that I started learning coding, I realized, okay, now I understand why you guys say this. Just telling me it's not going to work. It just didn't, for me personally, just didn't work. So that's why I learned coding. And so when I got into the whole no code space, I was just like, wow, now I can actually create a product or a website, for instance, and I know exactly how to go about creating it in such a way that I know it will work. And so when someone says, no, it's not possible, I can say, but I prototyped the thing for you. So it is possible, right? And so I'm going to just go and do something very practical. Let me just close that. That's the last of my slide. And we are going to design this thing. This is the website, or just like the hero section with the navigation that we are going to create inside of Figma, all right? And then I'm going to go do like a step-by-step process or guide on how to create this inside of Figma and then take it to Webflow. So I am just going to, give me a second. So I've got a project open here. Let me just going to drag this over. So I've got a project here. All right. So firstly, one of the key things that we need to install is this whole Webflow to Figma or Figma to Webflow plugin. That is super, super important because it will allow us to take whatever you design and take it to Webflow. So I have already installed the plugin in, let me just click that thing. It's part of a widget, so you'll see. It's going to type in Figma. The Webflow. Oh, why is this thing not working?
Justin, can you maybe just open the screen share a bit bigger? You have the controls on your side, if I'm not mistaken.
I can't make it bigger though, Scott. I mean, we can
I think you can change the layout, but I think there's one where it arranges the videos at the bottom. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. So the plugins, I'm going to just install this Figma to Webflow plugin, right? And so maybe I should do this as well. So what I'm going to do is
Sorry, Robert, I just want to share a link to it. Is it the one by Webflow itself?
Yeah.
It seems like it's an official plugin. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm sharing it.
Yeah. So that's the plugin that we need to install in order for this thing to work. And so what we'll do is I am going to connect my account, all right? And just so that you can see what's happening right here is it's opening up Webflow, all right? Opening up Webflow, and then I am just going to select the project. I think it's called it Figma. Then I'm just going to use that one because I already created the file or the project inside of Webflow. So I'm going to say authorize the app. Come on. And so it linked this project to Figma. So I'm just going to close that one. And then I am going to start this whole project. All right. And so what we need to remember, I guess, one of the key things that Webflow like to do is when you create, so I'm just going to go to layouts. So Webflow, one of the things that they do is they use auto layouts, right? So they've already got all of these layouts that you can use. It's pre-built, all right, when you do your design inside of Figma. And so they've got different sections, different layouts, and so on. But I'm going to scroll all the way down because I'm more interested in these things over here. So you've got a 2-column layout, 3-column layout, section, container, grids, and so on. And so I am going to open up a new page. And so as you can see, I hope you guys can see that clearly. So I'm going to open up a new page. And so you can see the structure. I can probably call this, I'm going to call that home. All right. So let's imagine that's the home page. Sorry, man. So what I'll do now is I am going to scroll all the way up, and on the home page, I'm going to just click on that and add a navigation. All right. And so I'm going to just close that quickly. So I'm going to just style this because let me just see what settings I put on this project. So I'm going to style this button. All right. I will give it that color over there. I'm going to give it a 5-pixel round corner. And I want to update the font to be, what font did I use? Let me just see. Space Grotesque. Okay, cool. I want to just make sure that all my fonts are the same. It doesn't really matter actually for this example, because what happens usually is when you first need to install the fonts inside of Webflow, in order for it to remember the stylings that you set for these things. So, but for this project, I'm just going to use this, and then I'm going to add in my logo. So I'm just going to copy from this project. All right, so I did a case study for this as well. So if you want to check it out on YouTube. Then what I'm going to do is paste this logo inside there, but I want to delete that image. And then I am going to left align it. So I'll add in, let me just see quickly, navbar menu. So this will probably be, I'm going to just close that to 10 pixels, the gaps. Increase that. So as you can see, the example that I shared has got, so let me quickly show this again. It's left aligned, so I want all of these links on the left hand side. And so how I would go about doing that is to just copy that, called navbar menu, copy that, paste it inside there. And because we have added a auto layout to this, it will automatically split the columns up. And what I want to do then is I actually just want to group these two and create an auto layout of it. I'll call this navbar menu left, and this one will be navbar menu right. So I'm not going to be too much worried about the naming conventions here. For those of you who are, no, you must name your things, your classes properly. What I want to do then is, because this gap is so big, I just want to, and I'm going to make it smaller. And then I am going to delete that. So I don't know what I call it, merchant equipment. All that merchant equipment industries pricing. Yeah, just copy two of those. Company and then partners. And this will just be sign in. And then I'm just going to delete those two. All right, so now we've got our navigation sorted out. But obviously we need to create this whole section over here. And what I'm going to do then now is I am going to open up this Figma to Webflow plugin. And then I am just going to grab a layout, which will probably be this 2-column layout. Just click on it. All right. And that's basically what I want. And so I am going to just copy this over just for the sake of time, because I mean, we can still sake of time, I'm just going to copy that over. All right, with all the styles and so on.
So has any
Yeah.
of this, like, is this syncing with Webflow, or do you need to do that as a separate step, or um,
Yeah,
how?
I'll get there.
Okay.
Just give me a second. Yeah. So,
Okay.
because I just want to get the styling sorted out so you can
Mm,
see what it will look like. And so I've already set up all of these things, and then I think the next step would be to add images in there. So it's just for I think this is probably one of those super important elements as well, so that you can just see. Let's just delete that, add that in there. And so inside of Webflow, what I've done with this image here, right, is I've grouped this together. And so if I go to design, I have basically added a position absolute, right? So I'll give it the position absolute. And then I just moved it with my mouse, right, where I wanted to more or less. Right. So, and this background image is masked inside of a shape. Right. So what we've done is we've got this thing. We've built out the hero section or the navigation. We built out the hero 2-column layout. We've got all of these things. Now, the most important step on this thing now is to obviously, which is probably the more exciting part of this thing, is to sync it with your current project. So right now you can see this is the project. I'm going to refresh it. And there's basically nothing in here. Right? There's nothing in there. And so everyone is like, oh man, so I want to get this stuff done. I'm excited to see what this project will be like. So I'm going to leave that while this load. I am going to click on this project. So what you need to do is you have to click on this page, right? So like you can see, I'm selected home, and then this will pop up here, all right? And so I need to actually select my project that is inside of Webflow, all right? I need to select that project, and what I will do then is I'm going to say copy this to Webflow. And so what's happening right now is this plugin is basically copying all the styles, all the elements, all the images, everything that you've done inside of this project. It basically just copied it, right? And so here's the magic step. All I'm doing is I'm saying, if you're on a Mac, I'm saying Command V. I probably need to select that. Come on. Command V, pasting, and that's it, right? That's literally just it.
Oh,
Right?
so it puts it for you in your clipboard.
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
yeah, so this site will be responsive. Yeah, you can see you got your. If I just do that, and so obviously you need to do all the styling and all of that stuff. But it's a responsive. You just need to set your styles and all of those things. All the development, because I've basically just come on, basically just pasted this thing twice. Just need to do it once.
So I assume the responsiveness is handled, the behavior aligns with that kind of template you selected in the beginning. I guess that defines kind of like all the breakpoints and stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Figma
Okay.
auto layout.
That's why we're using auto layout.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So
Mm.
Webflow has already done all of the hard work for us inside of
Mm.
Figma. That's why they created this plugin. And so what I would then do is because I'm got a development background as well. You will see these images as it's just been pasted as is. And now I like to do these as background images, right? So I would actually download all the assets from Figma and just upload these things again into Webflow as a background image, so that if you go to responsive sizes, right, it will scale properly better, because I mean, I just got a certain way that I like to work. But if you don't have time for all of those things, you can just literally use this. You can go to your different breakpoints, and you can actually just say, okay, listen, I will go here. I will set the size of this image to like 100%. Right, it will do that. The height as well as to 100%, and it will do that. And then so you start tweaking the site the way you want it. So obviously, with this example that I've done, I just only did the desktop version. So as a designer, they might like say, listen, I want this thing to not show up here, right? And so obviously you can also see that Webflow just called this vector wrapper 11, right? Vector wrapper 12. So you will want to update the naming conventions of these things. Just call it a different class name. And so you will tweak these things to your liking inside of Webflow. You might want to say, you can see this H1. Also, you can see what Webflow does. It gives us like an H1 class name, which is probably not what you want to do. But I'll probably start scrolling down and seeing I want to target all the H1s on the desktop, and I will want to give it a font of let's just say Droid Sans. I'm going to give it I know a lot of designers or developers like to use REM. So I'll just say 2 REM or whatever, right? And then obviously you'll give that maybe 120%. And so that's how you start tweaking things. And so all the Webflow has done all the hard work for you. You just need to tweak things. All right. And that's why, I mean, it just streamlines your process. There's a lot of other frameworks people are using. I know FinSuite's client first framework that's quite popular. There's Timothy Ricks who created this Lumos framework. There's what's this other one? This guy's from Australia. They've got their own Figma to Webflow plugin as well. And so you can use all of these frameworks, whatever fits your fancy, whatever framework you like working with. We've got a client now who wants us to use FinSuite's framework, client first framework. And so we'll use that to help streamline this whole process. And so just keep in mind as well, if you're doing this for a client, you probably want to create these images as background images and make it in such a way that they will be able to update the images and the content on their own, right? Because I always like to give the client the power to do all of those things themselves. And I think that's it.
So there's a question here, if you don't mind me. Yeah, cool. StreamYard doesn't show it properly, the name and so forth. But it's either Adrian or Adrian. You never know in South Africa. But yeah, I think this is a great question. This is also what I wanted to ask. So my assumption would be that because you just copy paste, it doesn't automatically sync back. Is there a way to take the Webflow stuff back to Figma, even if you do that manually or not?
There is a way. Webflow has created. I can't remember because I haven't been up. I mean, I know they created this thing where you can literally design your website inside of Figma, and if you update it, you can just Google it. I think it's out there. They just released it now a few weeks back or something like that. So I haven't played around it personally, so I can't really I can't say that it works effectively. Like I said, I can't. I haven't played around it, so I just don't know.
But so it's not something this plugin itself provides. Okay.
No, I don't think so. Yeah. But I know that they do give you the ability to, if you make a change inside of Figma, it will automatically update inside of Webflow as well.
Yeah. So I think another question from my side is, so those templates it gives you in the beginning, are those the same templates that you get within Webflow itself as well? Because I know you get a couple in Webflow. Or yeah, those. Are they the ones you get in Webflow, or are they kind of specific to the plugin?
So these are just how Webflow has designed or developed the software. So you can see, for instance, like they've got this one. If you scroll down all the way, you can see they've got like section plus container. So if I'm just going to just create a new page, right? And I am just zoom that in so you can see. So I'm going to click on this new page, and then you know how when you develop a website, right? You use this sections. You got your page, and then you got your section, and then you got your container, right? And so Webflow has structured that the same. All right. So we've got like your page, your section, your container, and inside of that container, you might want to do a 2-column layout. All right. So you can see the structure here. It's got a 2-column layout. They've got column left and column right. And so they basically set that up in Figma. And so when you copy this thing over to Webflow, they already got their class name set up, right? And so that's how they've done these things. So if I, for instance, I should probably just, I'm going to copy and paste that over.
If I'm not mistaken, Webflow also has set breakpoints for like tablet and desktop. And I think there's like a big desktop and a small desktop. And yes, they're at the top. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
would you see that same behavior like if you kind of drag it around in Figma as well, or not really?
Yeah, so I mean, Figma has the ability you can make things responsive.
Yes, yes. I don't do it because I'm
I
lazy.
don't.
But and also like I just want to get into the development. Like to me, Figma is more in terms of a sketch than rebuilding the entire site again. But I'm curious whether if you drag it, it actually gives you the same behavior.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't do all of that stuff inside of Figma. I just think it's you said, doing it twice. It just doesn't make sense for me. So I would go straight
I agree
to
with that too, yeah.
Yeah, I'll go straight to Webflow, and I know if I do it here using this breakpoints, 991, and we got 767 and 9478. Like even when I present things to client, I don't go all out and create all these animations. I just think, how you want to get stuff done as fast as possible. My main concern is having that MVP out there so that we can start testing the data that comes in.
Yeah.
So when you as a designer want to play sometimes you have to do it because you have to show the developers, listen, this is the kind of animation that I want. This is the kind of tweaks I want. When you hover over button, that's what I want. But I just don't see any value in doing that upfront in Figma because time is money, as they say.
Yeah. Justin, you probably have some questions. Yeah.
Well, there's another one from LinkedIn.
But
if you change the class names, is it going to break anything, or are there any other tags and so on that you can use?
Are they probably talking about it inside of Webflow, right? So if I say, like, I am going to, if I delete this class name, right, it's definitely going to do something. But if I say I don't like it called class column 3, I hate that. So I'm just going to rename that to let's call it left column for now. Right? It's still going to remember all the styles that you've added to it.
Okay. Yeah. Right. And then I think also if you go to the Figma, when you put in the Webflow thing, they name the frames that have auto layout a certain way. So I think they call them there 2 columns column. And I assume that class name column is now coming through into Webflow, right? If you look in the sidebar there where you landed that frame, if you change that, does it cause problems?
No, year on year.
Yeah.
I actually haven't tried that out.
That's a good question. Yeah, and
Well,
also,
let's.
does it derive from there? So does
Or
what
does it
you?
derive? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Sorry,
great
Scott, I'm
question.
interrupting you.
Yeah. No, no, no,
Yeah.
no, no.
Does it
I
derive
understand
from
what you're saying.
the?
Mm.
Does it derive from the component as a structured thing, or is it very
I, mean,
specifically tied to that name?
I don't think so, because if I change this, right? I mean, let's see. So this we've used these two columns. I think it's got the same column called column.
Yeah.
If I change that to whatever, I'm gonna just call it left, and I'm gonna call it right. It shouldn't do
Uh-huh.
anything to it, because I have to just.
Right. It hasn't broken the layout in Figma, so I imagine that's fine.
Yeah, it will
Well,
be fine.
well, you need to paste it again, right? Because
Yeah,
it creates it for you in your clipboard. So it doesn't
exactly.
automatically sync, yeah. But I think
Yeah,
then the question is, like, does it actually change? So, like, I guess also if you make changes, then you need to wipe everything here and paste it again, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just using the Figma to Webflow plugin, but like I said,
Yes.
I know that they have developed the Webflow or the Figma to Webflow plugin in such a way where you can make
Mm,
changes inside of Figma, and automatically you sync it to
mm,
Webflow, right? So like
mm,
I said, I haven't played around with that.
mm,
I still need to make use of it and test it out and see how
mm.
it works. But
Yeah.
Yeah. There's that design system sync option there. Is that what the one you're
I
referring
guess.
to? Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it works
Yeah.
nicely when you do a design system, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what?
Mm,
Let's say, for argument's sake, I want to change this, and I want to break things up and use a lot of position absolutes on this file. I
mm,
don't think that's going to work that great. But if I just want to change the color of the button to black or whatever color, then that
Yeah.
will work.
Yeah.
That will work better. But in terms of layouts, I don't think so. I don't think it
mm,
will
Yeah.
work that great.
mm.
So it's more for like design system elements that you might have, like forms and typography and colors and so on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Makes
yeah.
sense.
You also do get, I don't know how familiar you are with Webflow, Justin, but you also get
Not
components.
at all.
You also do get components. So I guess there would probably be components with, I think they call them variables or something, effectively like props. So I guess it would be something like that, where you can probably have some low level components like buttons or whatever, and you can sync them. Um,
Right.
but like from like what Robert has shown here, it seems like it's mostly just for bootstrapping purposes. So if you just want to like quickly get started,
Yeah.
my guess would be you're probably not going to go back to Figma that much again. Or
Exactly.
yes, yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, in
Mm,
the agency world, you have to do stuff very fast, right?
mm,
Like for instance, I had a client now who said, "Can you get design and stuff done this week still?" All right,
mm,
and so you can imagine I've got like 2 days to complete a landing page. Now
mm,
that's insane. So I don't have time to style it. I just need to do the design, take the code or everything that's done in Figma, copy it over to Webflow, and then just
mm,
tweak things in Webflow. So make sure that it's responsive, that all of those things are working perfectly, because on their
mm,
end, their client wants the site to be up and running as soon as possible.
mm,
So the amount
mm,
of pressure you have on your designers and your developers is insane, all
mm,
right? But you are
mm,
able to get something done up and running very fast. This
mm,
allows you to do that.
mm, mm. So I think from my side, then a question would be, um, why? What would be the benefit of this over um, just working directly in Webflow? Um, so, like, let me ask this first: is this something you use, or do you just work directly in Webflow, or do you work in Figma and then go to Webflow?
I do work in Figma for the designing
Mm,
purpose. I'm testing out a few frameworks to see what I mean. We've just the problem is where you get clients that are just want to get stuff done in a week, 2 weeks.
Mm.
You know, so I have a process that is about 3 months, for 12 to 8 to 12 weeks, right? So that helps set up the clients for success. But there are times when I'm in this instance, you have something where they just want something up and running within a week's time, and so you don't have time to think about the strategy. You just need to design, use best practices, and get it up. All right. So I like to design it in Figma, right? Do the desktop, tablet, and mobile versions of the designs, and then take it to um, to Webflow. That's if we have enough time to do things perfectly. All right. And so I'm someone that in the past I would do stuff from scratch, but sometimes you just don't have time for that. So whatever works, yeah, so I'll use
Yeah.
that.
No, I hear you. Sometimes I design directly in CSS. I just like literally start out inline, literally just inline style that stuff. Like, and then
Yeah,
once
yeah,
I have it, then I'm like, okay, cool. Like now I'm gonna do like actual class names and stuff. Okay, that's very interesting. And so, is there any way to control to get the responsive behavior without the actual using the templates? Can you just take like a blank? Is there like I saw there's a one column thing um, that you can select from. Is there like something that's just like blank or wild, and you just set your own auto layout stuff in Figma?
Um, so I mean, you have to. The plugin works with auto layout, all right? So that's how they have set it up. And so I try and follow. I did, however, test it out with another client project, but I used a lot of absolute positions on the
Yes.
design, actually. Unfortunately, I can't show it right now. But when you copy it over to Webflow, uh, uh, a lot of the stuff just seems to, they are not aligned, right? So they go below each other, and so now you have to tweak things even more. And so, like I said, it's just the way they've set it up, which seems to just make sense, having it auto layout set, which works perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah. Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, but like I don't think you can actually do breakpoints specifically in Figma, right? You can only do kind of what used to be the name? I think fluid design or whatever, where it's kind of implied by the way things collapse and so forth. You can't explicitly say change the style at this breakpoint, correct? You are muted, sorry.
Whoops, sorry about that. No, you can, Scott.
Oh, really?
With sizing variables that was introduced about a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
So you
just
can
shows
actually
like
create a canvas that's a specific sizes, and then you can literally drag like your desktop version onto a canvas, and it'll reflow based on how you set it up.
Okay, yeah. I don't. I don't like. I tend to do my big brush decisions in Figma, and then I head into something like Storybook to actually start like playing around with like behavior. Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Unless,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. So I don't
Figma
use those tools really. Yeah.
I think Figma tools for responsive stuff are useful when you've got a very tricky component that you're not entirely sure what you're going to do with. But doing 20 different versions of a page is foolhardy.
So then the question, so then the question is, because obviously, so Webflow has specific breakpoints. It has its own breakpoints that are hard coded. Does that translate at all to Webflow? So if you were to go and say, I want a specific break for, like, I want this to happen at, like, let's say, 10 rem or whatever, does that translate to Webflow at all?
So like I said, I mean, Webflow's got their own
Yes, which is
breakpoints
hard
that they use.
coded. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Mm.
so, like I said, I mean, I can't say because I don't usually play around with variables in Figma and all of those things. For me, it's just
Mm.
design it out, and then I know that you get some perfectionists, like everything classes needs to be named, and the layers needs to be named, and all of those things. I don't really worry about those things because all of the juicy stuff happens inside of Webflow. So I'll worry about all of those things when I get to Webflow. All right.
Mm.
And so I tend to follow what Webflow's breakpoints. But there are times when like let's say for instance, I need something to happen at a certain breakpoint, then I would just add custom code to it. And
Mm.
Webflow allows you to add custom codes, which is quite awesome because I know
Mm.
there are some things that we're working on a project where right now we certain breakpoints, it's just something just breaks, and so
Mm.
now we have to add certain breakpoints in there just to
Mm.
cater, because you have some clients who are very perfectionist. They will test every breakpoints that they can find,
Mm.
and so we're trying
Mm.
just to cater for that as well.
Mm. Yeah.
Um,
I have a sorry, I have a couple more questions, but Justin, Liesl, yeah, please go ahead.
Just one from my side. This is literally the first time I've actually seen Webflow, so I know nothing about it. But Robert, you mentioned allowing your clients to manage their content, change images and things like that. How does that happen in Webflow? Do they do it in a view like this, or is there some kind of a CMS that you get? Or
Mm.
um,
Mm.
Yeah,
There's a
so
CMS
basically,
plugin.
how
Yeah.
would your clients manage their content?
so basically, you would go to the editor, right? Oh
Oh,
yeah,
you
I
got.
need to
I
publish.
see. You need to publish
I
first.
have to
Okay.
publish this thing. Let me just publish that quickly.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah,
so
to quickly answer your question, Justin, yeah, it does have like kind of a CMS. You can create your own models, your schemas, everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
Neat.
and you can even have stuff like pagination or whatever, like kind of more like structured data. Yeah, it's actually pretty neat. I actually my design students, I had them to do like a ton of Webflow stuff just because it gives you such a good grasp on like kind of the underlying, like I hold very strong to this idea kind of shared by John Madia as well, which is designers don't need to know how to code, but they do need to understand computing.
yeah,
And like I think it gives you such a great insight into this idea of, because like when you look at it, like it's almost like the way the CMS stuff is, you're literally looking at a relational database basically.
Yeah, exactly. And
That's
how to structure
effectively,
things.
yeah, effectively what the Webflow CMS is. It's a relational database. You have columns, you have rows, and you can say, this is a primary key for this thing and so forth. So like that, it's such a, like, even if, like, I always told my students, even if you after this go like, I'm never going to touch this Webflow crap again, I hate it, it sucks, I think just like the, like, kind of dealing at that level, um
mm,
like is such a, like, empowering thing for you as a designer. Even just this understanding that there's like some data model and you have almost like a stamp, and that model gets stamped out, like
yeah,
in a list or whatever. Like it's sure, like, yeah, that's really empowering for designers. Yeah.
yeah, and that's why I
Yeah.
say understanding the fundamentals of development, right? Like the structure of, like I'm someone that like to use the BEM model or
Mm.
methodology, right?
Oh,
So
BAM. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
block, element, and
Mm.
modifier. And so
Yeah.
the structure, like you have your parent, you have
Mm.
your child, and then your grandchildren. That kind of structure. If you can
Mm.
understand those things, it will help you a lot, because like when you develop something,
Mm.
you have to start with a section, right? Now, obviously, section is almost like the parent, and then you have your container, because everything needs to be contained certain width,
Mm.
right? And then inside of that, you'll have your 2-column layouts or your
Mm.
3-column layouts, and you can use grids and flexbox and all of those things. So it's
Yeah.
quite powerful. It takes up a lot of the stress of trying to show a developer, listen, this is how I want to structure things, and this is how I want to animate stuff. Webflow
Mm,
allows you to do all of those things.
mm,
And Justin, just to now I'm in the editor right now, right? And
Right.
so at the bottom you'll see, because I'm logged in, you'll get this little bar, or
I
navigation
see.
bar
Yeah.
at the bottom, right? And so what will happen is, when you hover over things, you can just click on that, and then you can delete the text. And all right,
mm,
Right.
so I'm gonna just write whatever. And so when I click off it, automatically it will say saved, and then it will tell you one
Right.
unpublished change. So I need to publish that. And let's say I wanna create, or I wanna go to this page. I'm gonna click on the. I wanna go to the settings, and here you can add your SEO settings. All right,
mm,
so
Right.
you can add your
Very,
title tag, your meta description, all of those things, open graph stuff.
very neat.
mm,
Yeah.
mm,
That's great.
And so because there's no CMS here at the moment, right? You'll get your CMS pages. We didn't add any CMS. You'll get it in here, and then you'll be able to add content like your blog post, or
Right.
um, whatever other pages that uses the CMS.
mm,
Okay,
Right?
that's
mm.
great. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's very
Yeah.
much, once again, that's very much like something like Contentful, or
Yeah.
even like Netlify CMS or whatever, where you set schemas,
Yeah.
and then you have instances of that thing. Yeah, it's
Mm.
really nice. It's such a, like, I because like I obviously learned way back in the day, with front page and Dreamweaver and all that stuff. So I kind of reversed engineer a lot of stuff from there. So like, and I think like this is a nice equivalent for people starting with HTML and CSS today. um because it's I
Mm.
do think, like, so that's one use case. Obviously you can just go full on, like, I just want to do Webflow, I don't actually care about like learning more about HTML. But you mentioned like BEM and those things, and I do feel
Yeah.
this is one of the things I really like about Webflow compared to Framer. So Framer abstracts the web away, which,
Mm.
depending on what you want, is not a bad thing, because like the if Justin asked me how I feel about the DOM, so I think
How
like
do you feel about the DOM?
yeah, so like there are some problems. A lot of that has to do with the radical backwards compatible nature of HTML and so forth. It's not easy to work with, even CSS. Like basic stuff like margins and padding and that stuff is hard for people to grok. So
Mm.
so like something like Framer says, like, that doesn't make any sense. We're going to create our own way to manage this, and it'll just convert it to CSS and whatever. What I do like about Webflow is that there's a one-to-one representation of that stuff, even the names of the things. So it forces you
Mm.
to learn the underlying stuff. But it depends on what your goals are. But I do think what's nice about that, if Webflow disappears tomorrow, like, you've learned the underlying like thing that it abstracts, which is really cool. So it's also,
Exactly. And
yeah, it's also a nice way, and it's a nice way to get into the space without just staring at a text editor and being like, yeah, how do I make this border or
it-
whatever.
it's a nice. I mean, I totally agree with you, because
Mm,
a lot of the um, coding understanding, or understanding coding, uh,
mm,
Webflow helped me many years back, because now
mm,
okay, margins is to push content away. So I'm just going to use margins,
mm,
like, and there's a visual learning aid. So you just
yeah,
click and drag to the bottom, and
yeah,
okay, that's what's happening. Margins are the spacing outside the
yes,
div block, all right?
yes,
And so let's say, for instance, I'm using this button here, and because we've got like this padding,
mm,
if I select this padding and I just drag it, the
mm,
spacing inside of it will go bigger, all right?
mm,
And that's what
mm.
Webflow does. You can learn while you are developing these things. And
Agreed, yeah.
when you inspect code, right,
Mm,
you go to a website and inspect the code, then you can actually understand why this developer developed the website that way, what the spacing and the padding and all of those things are like. And that's how I basically taught myself as well, and I learned this stuff from Webflow many years back.
Yeah.
Which is
And
quite awesome.
yes. So what I also wanted to say was really cool is things like BEM and so forth directly translate to Webflow because it exposes the underlying abstraction. So anything you can do with plain CSS, anything you can do with plain HTML, you can just do in Webflow. As you mentioned, you can even put in your own custom code. Yeah. Liesl, I don't know if you have any specific questions.
Most of it was kind of answered, and I had thoughts around. There's many of these, or this is a growing thing. So the company that I work for, we like to use Framer, and there's Webflow, and there's many others. Kind of, how do you go about choosing something? So that was my one thought, and then just the concept of low code, no code. Where does this fall in? Because it's not no code, is it?
Yeah.
So Webflow, in my point of view, is a low-code tool, right? You can develop websites not without knowing any code, right? But I've seen there are companies who want to create a Webflow website, but then they want to integrate it with HubSpot, right? They like that HubSpot CRM, or they want to use Salesforce, or they want to use language switches, because they've got clients in France or wherever, Spain, and they want the website to be converted. And so I'm not sure if if Framer is there yet, but Webflow is heading there. They're already there. They bought another company now a few months ago, I think, that will allow you to use smart content. I think that's what they call it, smart content, where if someone is in, like for instance, it works perfect when you are here locally in South Africa. You can show your pricing page, you can show in rands, and now you in the UK, you can based on the IP address, it converts that rands into pounds, right? Or in the euros, in America, dollars, which is quite cool, because you want to use those smart. I know HubSpot has had something like this many years on their platform, where they built that thing in, where they want to change text, because UK, they got a different way of the English is different compared to ours, right? So their writing style are different, and so that's why Webflow bought the software. And so Framer still got a few years to catch up, and maybe they'll get there one day. But I think right now, for companies who want to get stuff out, I work with a lot of companies who their marketing teams want to build a landing page right now and not wait on a developer for 2 weeks to get something up and running, so they can do it themselves.
But that makes sense, because companies who typically use agencies to do their sites for them, bigger brands, and so they would have HubSpot set up. So then if HubSpot is basically the core of your business, and Webflow is then a good match. It sounds like. Okay.
Yeah, and I also want to, also mention something there, which I guess is maybe not self-apparent, but I've always told my students this as well, is that two companies that I do consulting work for, they have a massive engineering team, but they have an external agency do their kind of landing page and whatever in Webflow, actually, because, like, first and foremost, like, your like having your internal design team and having your internal engineering team spend time building out like landing pages and marketing stuff and so forth, when I can promise you that engineering and design team is already behind schedule on the actual product itself. So I think what's really nice about it is and this is what I told my students as well. There's a big market for this type of thing, where there's some SaaS product that some team is building, but they just don't have the time to actually build the marketing stuff
Mm.
as well, and they just get. And in both those cases, we just got an agency to do it. So like my take on the framework Webflow thing is, I think from my perspective, they kind of much the same muchness. It's literally the question is just, do you want to dig into the actual platform itself? Do you want the web to be abstracted away for you behind a nicer thing that makes more sense? Or do you want to work with do you want the names of the things to be the actual names, the mental model to be the same as if you were actually writing the code? So there's trade-offs to each. The one like obviously it's just nicer working with Framer. It's easier. It has less of a learning curve. But one thing though is you're using an abstraction. So if Framer disappears tomorrow, those skills aren't really interchangeable with anything else, because it's a Framer specific way of presenting things, thinking of things, Framer specific controls. Whereas with Webflow, like it literally calls the CSS properties, like what they are. The options, I saw their display. You have like flex, you have grid, you have block, you have inline. And obviously those four things don't. You have to really get a sense of kind of understand the CSS a bit to understand what those actually even mean. Whereas Framer might have something like row and grid and column or whatever, something that's an easier mental model to reason about, that's not like bogged down in all this baggage that comes with the web platform. So that's the general thing. It depends on what, pick your poison. So Robert, I have a specific question in terms of what would be, I have my own answers to this, so I'm curious to hear yours. What would be a reason why you would use Webflow over something like Squarespace or Wix, which I would say those are no-code tools? And what would be a reason why you would maybe use those drag and drop things over something like Webflow?
So because I've been in the industry for many years, I might be biased to this. I just find that Webflow for me personally gives me, when I started out with it, right? Obviously as a designer, when I saw that I'm able to have that power that I was desiring so for many years, without having to fight with developers over this, that, or the other, and waiting on them. They gave me that power. So I would say Squarespace and all of those things are more for, well, I haven't played around with those tools, so I don't know. But in my mind, I would probably think that if you are a business owner, like maybe a receptionist who are trying to go virtual and needed something up and running, they can go to Squarespace or Wix and build out their own drag and drop websites, because you just drag components and build, because you still have to watch some videos, tutorials on how to build, how to structure the website. And so I think those are perfect for those kind of things. But I'm working with a lot of SaaS companies, and they still want that power. They still want to integrate with these different softwares, right?
Yes.
So those are kind of important. I work with a lot of marketing companies as well, or the marketing departments in the companies. And so I know I try and build it out in such a way that the marketers have the power to build out these landing pages, to get the necessary data, to target the audience in such a way, or email them and get the leads and get the, send out all of those leads to the sales team. So those are important. And that's why I say I might be biased, because Webflow just gives me the power to do these things. So Um, yeah.
Yeah. So my general take would be, I mentioned this example where, as you mentioned, like SaaS companies. So I do a lot of consulting work for SaaS companies, and in with a lot of those companies, brand consistency is really important.
Yeah.
And like if you're using something like Wix or whatever, and you're like Bob the plumber, not that big of a deal if you can't set it to the exact border radius that you want, or the exact color swatch, or whatever. But like there's a certain level where you want something basic, but you want more granular control over that. And I think Webflow kind of fits that space quite neatly. And like, I also have to say, we're not sponsored by Webflow or anything. Like, I just think it's a really good tool. I just it kind of like it scratches all the things that I find interesting. I don't use it, but I really appreciate it. But if anyone from Webflow is listening and you want to sponsor us, go ahead.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I a lot of times I literally had a conversation with someone last week who wanted to kind of get a designer, get a developer, build out a site for a conference and whatever. And I literally just told them just like get one guy to just do something in Webflow for you. You don't need to have an entire site, with like a design that then gets turned into code and then you have like I've seen people like spin up things that are effectively digital brochures with like obviously a lot of it is like WordPress, but also like Next.js and yeah, like a lot of it's just overkill for things that are just like digital brochures at the end of the day. Yeah.
I feel like because I don't want to bash anything, but I feel like a lot of people are still being convinced that they need something with WordPress, but feel like you can get from this possibly the same, and WordPress is not needed. But I think sometimes, yeah, it's probably like the client doesn't always understand what they're being sold. And then they fall in a trap kind of, because this is definitely a fast execution.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I would go even further. I would say that in a lot of those cases you probably don't even need Webflow. Once again,
Yeah.
Wix. If you're like want Bob the plumber or whatever, you're probably not gonna like. Probably doesn't make sense to get someone like Robert or whatever to build. Like, just go in Wix and say like, here's a photo of me with my truck, and this is where my office is, and whatever. So like, to your point, I don't think it's anything specific with WordPress. I see the same thing with React as well. There's no reason why like something that's effectively just static HTML and CSS needs to spin up JavaScript. So like, people love to over engineer things, and I think it's just like people don't understand, or they think the simple tools, the things that are more simple, is somehow compromised or something. Yeah. Or I don't know, it's I can't say. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I always ask the client, like when I had this guy reach out to me, wants to create something for, he's got an idea, and he's got a marketplace idea, and so I asked him, like, now, before you spend all that money on creating this website, this marketplace, have you validated the idea first? Is there like really a market for this idea you have? Because now you're going to spend all this money, and then at the end of the day, there's no interest in that product that you want to sell.
Oh, that's a talk in its own.
But I find the same as well. I have so many people who wanted to like integrate some type of payment gateway or whatever, and I'm like, so many people. I've just said, like, just get like a Gumroad account or something,
Exactly.
It's like it's sad to me how many things are being built by hand where there's like solutions that give you like a very quick, easy like win with very little money.
Yeah.
But yeah, like as you mentioned, Liesel, that's a talk for another day. Yeah, I don't know.
I think a
Yes,
lot
go
of
ahead.
people grapple. They don't know where to go because sometimes if you ask a developer, I'm going to use a developer as an example, but if you have a project, this developer would approach it in this way. This one will have an opinion on how he would do it. And so if a client comes to you and they say like everybody's approach is going to be different.
Yeah.
I think the conversation really starts with budget. Like
Mm,
where before you decide whether or not you're going to go low code, no code, or custom. Because custom development is expensive.
yeah,
It's really, really expensive.
yeah, no, agreed.
But if you land in front of a good salesperson, they could probably talk you into it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
Yeah.
I think last question from my side, Robert, is just like, so I think one of the things, so we did mention WordPress and so forth, and I think one of the things WordPress has going for it is like just the immense ecosystem of themes and stuff, just because it's been around for so long. Like I remember, like I did WordPress way back in the day, and I remember just it's weird just thinking about like how cutting edge WordPress was back in the day. I remember like the first time I used it, I'm like, what? You actually set it up in the browser? You don't have to go and FTP stuff up and then go set some config file and some XML file and
Yeah.
like you literally install it you upload the files to the FTP and then you start the installation. That was like, what? But so it's just like been around for so long that it has this massive ecosystem with just themes and stuff. What is the story like for Webflow in terms of getting something that's similar to, I guess, like a WordPress theme? Like, what are your options? What's the variety like? How are they generally priced? Is that even something you do, or would someone who wants something like that be more suited for something like, once again, Wix or Squarespace, where you maybe just want something out of the box?
So Webflow, they do have a marketplace, right? So where you can buy templates, and then you can just hire someone to customize it. I try and stay away from that just because we have one template that someone has tried. The developer of the template, they're trying to cater for a variety of industries, right?
Mm,
And so my frustration when I work on those templates, a lot of times client wants something to be done to those templates, and now we have to hack it, right? We
yes.
have to find a way around it. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, man, we might as well develop this thing from scratch, right?
Mm,
And figure out, because now I have to work on someone else's. And I'm not sure, Skulk, if you're familiar with or have worked on someone else's code, right? You have to figure out
yes.
why is this thing here? What if I change that thing? It's gonna break someone else, and that's usually the case, right?
Yeah.
You try and now you add combo clauses, but the
Yeah.
more combo clauses you add, the slower the site gets, because you're
Yeah.
trying to do this and the client wants that. And so I just
Yeah.
find it really frustrating to work on someone else's code.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's just my take on it.
Yeah, but I guess it's the same with like WordPress and so forth as well. Like a lot of those themes look amazing in the preview and the example, but then you put your own blurry image in it and it just looks so crap. Like I think a lot of times people don't realize it's just because it uses amazing like stock imagery and whatever. And the moment you put your crappy picture in there, like now it doesn't look anything like the example when you bought the theme. But yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay, so it's a lot more like kind of like hand coded and hand designed stuff that you do in Webflow.
I mean, it's. I mean, we've worked on templates for clients. They put
Mm,
via template, and then we had to tweak it.
mm,
But problem, I guess, the problem comes when they want more advanced stuff done to the template,
yes.
right?
Mm,
And
mm,
now we have to now hack the thing or break some stuff here and there in order to get it to work. And so it becomes more frustration because we have Uncle so and so work on this site. It's like, no, I know Webflow, I can help you, and then they don't do it properly, and so now you have to fix their mistakes just because they're trying to get something up and running.
Yeah, that sounds like consultancy life to me.
Ah,
Like there's a lot of benefits to doing consulting work, but one of the drawbacks of consulting work is usually by the time, especially if you're a very senior consultant, usually by the time someone's willing to pay your hourly rate, like they're already super desperate. Like they're like usually like when everything's in a good place, it's like, nah, man, I'm like my nephew can do this for 300 rand or whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's really cool. Have you ever worked on a project where you realized or where the team decided that maybe now it's getting a bit too complex and we probably need to code something outside of Webflow?
We always like to scope things up front and tell the client, like, I mean, we had someone reached out to us and they want to migrate about 812 blog posts from WordPress to Webflow. And so it's fine, we can do that. But the problem comes is they I don't know what's this SEO thing that they want to do now, where they want to have like some sort of a menu on the left hand side, right? And so their current blog wasn't developed like that, but they want the Webflow blog to be developed, which means we literally have to figure out something where we can target, like for instance, the H2s or whatever, write some custom code that will allow us
some type of outline thing.
Yeah, like on the left hand side you have this index, right? So if you click on it, it's closed down. So we now have to figure out something where we will be able to do that kind of thing. Otherwise, the poor developer is going to have to work on it. Will have to manually go through everything, update things, and that's going to take a lot of time.
Yeah. Like I would also highly encourage anyone, like, so I used to work at OpenUp, and same here, like I mostly worked on the kind of actual products, not the actual site itself and so forth. But Matt, I think he's still at OpenUp. Like, man, that guy, like, they were really pushing like stuff with Webflow. They were really doing some crazy stuff. I think they had I think JD at OpenUp, he wrote like a custom npm package, I think, that like converts your Webflow to like a Django template and something, and then they ran it on Python, and they were doing some crazy stuff with Webflow. But like they did say, like there were various points where they spoke directly to the Webflow team, because it just started getting so hairy, and even the Webflow team themselves didn't know, like, geez, how would you do this? Is this even possible? But I'm very impressed with some of the stuff there. I think Wazimap, which I'll maybe link in the comments, is actually designed in Webflow. And it's like it's like almost like Google Maps, but it allows you to see like demographic information. So like,
wow.
It's so so also just shout out to JD and Matt and everyone at OpenUp. They've done some crazy stuff. Yeah, there we go. I just want to see if that's the right one, but but I think that's the last question from me, because clearly I can talk about this just forever.
I can see you excited. You're getting more
excited. Justin, Liesl, I don't know if there's anything else from you guys.
Nothing else from me.
Not for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This has been really, really cool. Robert,
Awesome.
where can people get in touch with you, support you, and so forth?
So like YouTube, I put out all my, if you can follow me there, I can grow that following. But nonetheless, I'm sharing a lot of stuff on YouTube. LinkedIn, I think you guys have said my LinkedIn account there as well. I'm going to just drop a comment.
I'm going to put your LinkedIn on the chat if somebody will just post it for me.
Justin has the power to get the actual clickable URLs.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So LinkedIn, YouTube is probably the most. I think LinkedIn is probably the one platform you can connect with me because I'm very active on LinkedIn.
I can attest to that. Yeah. All right. Okay, cool. Thanks so much for your time, Robert.
Great.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks, Robert.
Thanks,
Yes.
guys, man. Have a great evening further, man.
Bye.
See you guys.
You
All
too.
right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.